Welcome back to the channel where ordinary pocket change can turn into extraordinary treasures. Today we're diving deep into a story most people have never heard. A mystery that hides inside the smallest coin in your wallet. A coin so common you might overlook it every single day. But what if I told you that a few Roosevelt dimes from certain years could change your life forever? Coins from the years 1967, 1968, 1974, and even 1983 have shocked collectors and experts around the world with their unbelievable values. These are not just old dimes. These are hidden time capsules. Secrets of silver and era strikes. Coins that can make an ordinary person's day turn into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. So stay till the end, because by the time you finish this video, you might rush to your drawer, your piggy bank, or that old coin jar sitting in your kitchen, hoping you've been holding on to a tiny piece of fortune all along. Let's begin with one of the most talked about, yet least understood, coins in American history, the Roosevelt Dime from 1967. It's a year that stands out for many reasons. The late 1960s were a turning point for America. Music, war, culture, and even the coins in circulation were changing forever. The U.S. Mint had just gone through one of the biggest transformations in its history. The removal of silver from most circulating coins. Before 1965, every dime, quarter, and half dollar carried 90% silver. But by 1965, the mint had officially stopped using silver for regular coins due to rising metal prices. By 1967, silver dimes were officially gone, or so they thought. That's what makes the 1967 Roosevelt dime such a mysterious coin, because some experts believe a few of these dimes were accidentally struck on, leftover silver planchets, blanks, meant for earlier coins. And if you ever find one, you're not just holding a piece of metal. You're holding a ghost from a vanished era. Imagine you pick up a handful of change at a diner, and one dime feels slightly different. It shines brighter, has a heavier feel, almost like it's whispering history. You think it's nothing special, but in reality, it could be worth thousands. In recent years, collectors have discovered 1967 Roosevelt dimes that were actually made from silver instead of the normal copper-nickel mix. These rare era coins are almost like hidden survivors from the pre-1965 era, and when they appear, they shake the entire collector community. One 1967 dime, confirmed to have been struck on a silver planchet, sold for more than $3,000 at auction. Another example, graded by PCGS as MS68, fetched close to $5,000 because of its mirror-like proof, surface, and untouched condition. Think about that. A 10-cent coin that could buy a used car. But the mystery doesn't end there. The 1967 dime also hides another layer of secrets, the world of special mint sets, or SMS. During 1965 to 1967, the U.S. Mint didn't produce traditional proof sets for collectors. Instead, they created these limited special mint sets, which had a unique satin-like finish. These coins weren't exactly proof, yet they were better struck than regular circulation coins. The 1967 SMS dimes are known for their sharp details, reflective luster, and extremely low mintage. Some of these coins, especially those in perfect MS or SP68 condition, have crossed the $10,000 mark in collector markets. Their value isn't just about silver. It's about rarity, perfection, and history frozen in time. Now imagine you're holding such a coin, the surface gleaming. The portrait of President Franklin D. Roosevelt so detailed that it looks alive, the rim sharp and untouched. For a collector, this isn't just metal. It's a time machine, a link to when America was transitioning from silver to modern alloys. And within that transition, mistakes happened. Small, invisible errors that became treasures decades later. Some of the 1967 dimes show doubled lettering on Liberty, or the motto, "In God We Trust." These double die varieties are extremely scarce, and the ones with strong doubling can fetch between $1,000 and $4,000, depending on grade and visibility. Every small error tells a story of human hands, machines, and a nation in change. There's something poetic about the 1967 Roosevelt dime. It represents the end of one age and the beginning of another. Franklin D. Roosevelt's face on the coin reminds us of leadership during hardship, the Great Depression, and World War II. The year 1967 represents social change. civil rights, and a new generation of Americans finding their voice. Together, that coin captures both eras in a way no other coin does. Maybe that's why collectors feel emotionally attached to it. Not just because of its value, but because of what it symbolizes: resilience and transformation. Now let's talk about how to identify if you might have one of these special 1967 dimes. First, pick up your coin and look closely under a bright light. A silver 1967 dime will have a completely uniform silver tone on the edge, no visible copper line. Regular copper-nickel dimes have a distinct brownish band around the edge because of their inner copper core. If yours doesn't, it might be struck on silver. Second, weigh it. A silver dime should weigh around 2.5 grams, while the regular clad dime weighs closer to 2.27 grams. That small difference can mean a massive jump in value. And finally, listen. When a silver coin is dropped on a table, it produces a high ringing sound, different from the dull thud of modern clad coins. Some collectors have literally identified their silver era dimes just by that distinct chime. But it's not just about silver. Certain 1967 dimes from the special mint sets exhibit cameo or deep cameo finishes, meaning the design appears frosty, while the background mirrors shine like glass. These coins are highly prized by grading companies like PCGS and NGC. A single deep cameo specimen in top condition once reached over $6,000 at heritage auctions. And as grading technology improves, more collectors chase that perfection. Which means your coin might be the next big discovery. One story that stunned the community was about a retired school teacher from Ohio who found a strange 1967 dime in a jar she'd kept for years. It looked unusually bright, heavier than normal, and had a ring unlike any other dime she owned. After sending it for professional grading, she discovered it was indeed struck on a leftover silver planche. That 10-cent coin paid for her granddaughter's first year of college. When news broke, it reignited the hunt for hidden silver dimes across America, from old rolls stored in basements to jars passed down from grandparents. Suddenly, everyone was checking their change again, hoping to hear that magical ring. Collectors often say, "The 1967 dime doesn't reveal itself easily." Many look ordinary, but the rare few hide within millions of regular ones. Some error types even include off-center strikes and misaligned dies, which can also command hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on the severity. There's a strange beauty in that, how something so small and overlooked could carry a story of value, history, and mystery all at once. It's like the coin is testing you, waiting to see if you can notice its secret before the world does. So next time you find an old dime, especially one from 1967, take a moment. Hold it close. Look at it under the light. It might just be an ordinary piece of pocket change, or it might be one of the few survivors from a vanished silver era. A relic of American transformation worth more than you ever imagined. And that's only the beginning, because the coins that followed, from 1968, 1974, and 1983, each hide their own story, their own shock, and their own fortune waiting to be uncovered. Stay with me because what comes next might surprise you even more. The year was 1968. America was still buzzing with change. The war in Vietnam, protests in the streets, Martin Luther King's dream echoing through history, and a generation redefining what freedom really meant. In the middle of all that noise, something silent and unnoticed was being minted. Millions of small silver-colored coins carrying the face of Franklin D. Roosevelt. Most people never gave them a second glance. Just another dime, right? But what if I told you that some of the 1968 Roosevelt dimes aren't what they seem? What if a few of these tiny coins hold a mistake so rare that collectors today are willing to pay thousands just to get their hands on one? The 1968 Roosevelt Dime stands at the crossroads of two eras of the fading shadow of silver and the rise of the copper-nickel age. By this year, silver was gone from regular circulation coins. But something unusual happened in 1968. The San Francisco Mint started producing proof coins again after a 3-year break. These were not ordinary coins. They were struck for collectors, using special dies that gave them mirror-like surfaces and sharp details. Every proof dime from that year carried a small mint mark, S on the front, a tiny letter that would later become the key to some of the most valuable errors in modern coin history. Here's where the mystery begins. In 1968, the Philadelphia Mint, for the first time since 1942, did not place a mint mark on its coins. The San Francisco Mint, however, struck proof, coins marked with an S, but due to a small mechanical or human error, a few proof dimes were struck without the S mint mark, the so-called no S proof dime. These coins look identical to regular proofs, sharp, glossy, mirror-like, but they're missing that one tiny letter. And that tiny missing letter is what makes them incredibly valuable today. Imagine holding a coin so small, and yet, one missing character could mean the difference between 10 cents and $25,000. That's exactly what happened with the 1968 no S proof dime. The error was discovered accidentally when collectors began opening their brand new proof sets from the U.S. Mint. Some noticed something strange. Their dimes didn't have the S mark at all. What began as confusion soon turned into a frenzy. Coin dealers were suddenly offering thousands for what most people thought was a printing mistake. Over time, the 1968 no S proof dime became one of the most legendary modern errors ever found. In 2023, one of these coins, graded by PCGS as PR68 Deep, Cameo sold for over $40,000 at auction. Another, slightly lower in grade, fetched $2,500 to $300, and that's not because it's made of silver. It's because it's a 1 in a million mint error. Only a handful are known to exist, and every time one surfaces, it creates headlines in the numismatic world. Think about that. A coin worth a few cents suddenly, becoming more valuable than a brand new car, all because of a missing mint mark. But let's go deeper. The 1968 Roosevelt Dime is special not just for its no S proof error, but also for being the first year that the S mint mark returned, after 3 years of absence. For collectors, it represents rebirth, a return to tradition after the uncertainty of the mid-1960s. When you hold a 1968 dime, you're holding the first official proof coin of a new era, struck with renewed precision and pride. The mirror-like surface reflects more than just light. It reflects the spirit of a nation that was changing, modernizing, and finding its footing again. Now here's where the emotional part begins. Many people who bought those 1968 proof sets kept them safely tucked away, unaware that one small variation could change their lives. There's a story of a retired postal worker who, while organizing his attic, found an old envelope marked 1968 proof set. Do not open. When he finally opened it decades later, his dime had no S mint mark. He sent it for verification, and within weeks, it sold for more than $20,000. That little coin, sitting in darkness for over 50 years, had been silently waiting to reveal its secret. Collectors often say that the 1968 dime teaches one of the greatest lessons in coin collecting. Look closer, because sometimes the smallest difference can hold the biggest reward. Even regular 1968 dimes, if they're in flawless condition, can surprise you. High-grade business strikes graded MS-68 have sold for $1,000 or more because of their rarity and perfect condition. Those from the Denver Mint with a clear D mint mark and flawless luster are especially sought after. For a 10-cent coin to command that much value, it must be nearly perfect. No scratches, full bands on the torch, and crisp details on Roosevelt's hair. There are also no 1968 dimes with striking errors, off-center strikes, broad strikes, and double dies. Some were even struck on planchets meant for foreign coins, creating bizarre and fascinating anomalies. A few of these rare error coins have fetched between $2,000 and $10,000 in auctions, depending on how dramatic the error is. Each one is like a fingerprint of the minting process, unique, unrepeatable, and valuable because of that uniqueness. And there's another little-known detail about the 1968 dime that makes it unforgettable. It was the first year that proof coins were made at the brand-new San Francisco facility. The Mint had moved part of its proof production from Philadelphia to San Francisco to handle growing demand. So in a sense, the 1968 Roosevelt Dime marks a new chapter, not just in design, but in American minting history. Every proof coin from that year carries the DNA of that transition, the rebirth of craftsmanship in the modern age. Now imagine this. Somewhere in America, maybe right now, there's an old proof set sitting inside a drawer, wrapped in yellowing paper, forgotten. Inside that set could be one of those priceless no-S-proof dimes, waiting to be rediscovered. It could be sitting inside an antique shop, a garage sale box, or a dusty family collection that no one ever thought to check. That's the magic of coin collecting. The thrill of finding history hidden in plain sight. There's a famous quote among collectors that says, "Coins don't change, the world around them does." And the 1968 Roosevelt Dime is the perfect example of that truth. A coin born in an era of revolution and innovation, carrying a secret so small that it can only be seen under magnification, yet powerful enough to change someone's life overnight. When you hold a 1968 dime, you're holding a story of America's return to quality, of mistakes that became miracles, and of the people who learned that sometimes fortune hides in the smallest details. Maybe that's why, even today, collectors keep searching, inspecting, hoping, and dreaming. Because who knows? The next coin you find in a forgotten drawer might just be the next 1968 no-S-proof dime, a 10-cent miracle worth tens of thousands of dollars. And if you think that's incredible, just wait until you hear what happened in 1974. The story that follows involves a dime that shouldn't even exist the way it does, a coin that made experts question the limits of perfection and the mystery of errors that defied logic. Stay tuned. The next revelation is even more astonishing. By the mid-1970s, America had changed again. The silver was long gone, the copper-nickel era was in full swing, and the U.S. Mint had refined its coin production to near perfection. The Roosevelt dime had become so ordinary that people barely noticed it anymore. But the truth, as collectors would later discover, is that 1974 wasn't as perfect as it seemed. Because hidden among the billions of regular, 1974 dimes were a few that broke the rules, defied logic, and shocked the numismatic world. These were dimes that should not exist, yet they do. And if you happen to find one, you might just be holding a fortune in your hand without even knowing it. The 1974 Roosevelt dime looks like every other dime at first glance. Franklin D. Roosevelt's familiar profile on the obverse, the torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse, and the standard copper-nickel-clad composition. But here's where the story takes a mysterious turn, because somewhere in the minting process, something strange happened. A few 1974 Roosevelt dimes were accidentally struck on silver, planchets left over from earlier production, runs for collector sets. Think about that for a moment. Nearly a decade after silver coins were discontinued, a handful of 1974 dimes were born carrying the soul of the past, silver where there should have been copper. It's one of those moments where history slips through the cracks, literally. These era dimes weigh slightly more than normal, around 2.5 grams instead of 2.27, and have a brilliant silver edge with no trace of copper. They ring differently when dropped, and their surfaces shine with a luster that normal, copper-nickel, coins can never replicate. For years, collectors didn't even know they existed. Then, in the late 1990s, one surfaced. It was verified by experts at PCGS, authenticated as a 1974 Roosevelt dime struck on a 90% silver planchet. When it went to auction, it sold for an unbelievable $12,650. And just like that, a quiet mystery turned into a modern treasure hunt. People started checking their change again, searching through old coin rolls, hoping lightning might strike twice. Because once you know that something this rare can exist, you can't help but wonder, could it happen again? Could there be more of them still hiding in the millions of untouched 1974 dimes, circulating across America? But the silver planchet errors aren't the only secrets that 1974 holds. This year also produced some of the sharpest, most detailed strikes of the decade. Coins with full torch bands, meaning the vertical and horizontal lines on the torch are fully visible and separated, are extremely scarce in high grades. These are known to collectors as full band or FB dimes, and they're the hallmark of perfection in Roosevelt dime collecting. A 1974 D dime-graded MS-68 FB sold for over $3,000 simply because of its flawless condition. Think about that. No silver, no error, just sheer perfection. and yet 1,000 times its face value. That's how much collectors value rarity and condition. And then there's the realm of doubled dies and striking anomalies. Some 1974 dimes display doubling on the inscriptions. "In God We Trust" or "Liberty." Under magnification, the letters appear shadowed or duplicated, a result of a slight misalignment during the die creation process. Most people will never notice it with the naked eye, but for collectors, that microscopic detail can mean the difference between pocket change and a payday. Strong double die examples have been known to reach $1,000 or more depending on clarity and grade. Each one is a fingerprint of imperfection, proof that even machines can make human mistakes. The 1974 Roosevelt Dime also carries another subtle but emotional layer. It represents an era of transition not just in coins, but in the American economy. Inflation was rising, the dollar was changing in value, and the very idea of money was being redefined. Yet through it all, this little 10-cent coin continued to circulate quietly, passing through the hands of millions, buying coffee, candy, parking meters, and memories. Decades later, some of those same dimes would reappear in collectors' hands, now worth hundreds or even thousands, simply because they were struck differently, looked sharper, or survived untouched by time. There's a story that still circulates among collectors about a young man from Texas who discovered one of the rarest 1974 dimes in a roll he bought from a local bank. He'd been searching for months with no luck. Then one evening he opened a fresh roll, and something immediately caught his eye. The coin gleamed differently, its edge pure silver, no copper line. His heart raced. After testing the weight and confirming the ring sound, he sent it for grading. The result? A genuine 1974 Roosevelt Dime struck on a silver plancher. The coin was later auctioned for over $10,000. He called it the best 10-cent decision I ever made. It's stories like these that make coin collecting more than a hobby. It becomes a treasure hunt, a link to history, and a reminder that miracles can still hide in plain sight. The 1974 Roosevelt Dime embodies that truth perfectly. It looks ordinary, but within its thin layers lies potential worth more than most people imagine. Even regular clad dimes in exceptional grades, bright, uncirculated, full-band examples can bring in hundreds from serious collectors. Why? Because mint perfection is rare. Out of millions struck, only a handful come out flawless enough to reach MS 68 or higher. There's also something almost poetic about the idea of a 1974 dime struck on silver. It's like a ghost from the past slipping into the modern world, a whisper from the age of silver coins refusing to fade away. The U.S. Mint has always tried to eliminate mistakes, to achieve mechanical perfection, but sometimes it's those very imperfections that make history. Every rare error coin carries a story, not of flaw but of survival. So, what should you do if you think you've found a special 1974 dime? First, check the edge. If you see no trace of copper, that's a major sign. Then weigh it on a precise scale. Silver planchers are heavier. If it passes both tests, never clean it, never polish it. Place it in a protective holder and send it for professional grading. One expert confirmation could turn your 10 cents into $10,000. Even if you don't find a silver error, check for other varieties. The Denver and Philadelphia mint issues with strong strike details are still worth holding on to. Dimes with perfectly centered designs, strong luster, and no contact marks are becoming harder to find as time passes. The ones graded MS 68 or better are already commanding strong prices, and their value keeps climbing year after year. And maybe, just maybe, one of those coins in your pocket or old drawer still carries that faint silver glow, waiting for you to notice it, because every time a rare 1974 Roosevelt Dime surfaces, it proves the same truth. History has a way of hiding in the smallest places. As we move forward, the story only gets stranger. Because in 1983, a decade later, another Roosevelt Dime would emerge with an error so bizarre that even seasoned collectors were stunned. A mistake so subtle that for years no one even noticed it. And when they finally did, it became one of the most talked about coins of the modern era. Stay with me. The 1983 dime isn't just a coin. It's a mystery that rewrote everything collectors thought they knew. Two small silver-colored coins sitting in your drawer, maybe forgotten for years, could secretly be worth thousands of dollars. Imagine holding a tiny dime in your hand, thinking it's just 10 cents. But what if that same dime could be sold for over $300,000? Sounds unbelievable, right? But these stories are not fiction. They're real, shocking, and happening even today across the United States. Somewhere in an old jar in a pocket, or maybe in your childhood collection, could lie one of the most valuable Roosevelt dimes ever minted. And the years that make all the difference are 1967, 1968, 1974, and 1983. 4. Ordinary-looking dimes that hide 4 extraordinary secrets. Stay with me because as this story unfolds, you might realize you've been walking around with a fortune in your pocket all along. Let's start with the first one, the 1967 Roosevelt Dime. A coin that looks like every other dime, yet hides a mystery so deep that even coin experts were stunned when they discovered it. The year was 1967. The U.S. Mint had stopped putting mint marks on coins for a short period, so every dime from that year looked the same, no matter where it came from. But among the billions produced, a few pieces were struck differently, sharper, brighter, and somehow heavier. Some collectors say they can almost feel the difference by touch alone. Rumors began to spread that a few 1967 dimes were accidentally struck on. 90% silver planchets left over from the pre-1965 silver era. If that's true, these are not just dimes. They are forgotten treasures from America's silver age. Imagine someone in 1967 spending one of those dimes for a cup of coffee, not realizing it held the power to buy a car decades later. These rare silver 1967 dimes have shocked collectors when discovered in circulation, with some grading above, Mint State 67 fetching tens of thousands of dollars at auctions. But the real twist came when a perfectly struck specimen appeared with proof-like surfaces, something that shouldn't exist. Experts called it a phantom proof, a coin that was never meant to be. Was it a mint experiment? Or an error that slipped through under mysterious circumstances? No one knows for sure. But when that proof-like 1967 Roosevelt Dime surfaced, its auction price skyrocketed, crossing $300,000 according to some sources. Collectors call it the ghost dime, because it seems to appear and vanish without trace, often surrounded by controversy about whether it was a genuine mint strike or an intentional test coin that escaped official destruction. But even ordinary 1967 dimes aren't so ordinary anymore. High-grade examples, especially those with deep cameo surfaces or full torch bands on the reverse, can command massive prices. If you ever find one in pristine, mirror-like condition, you're holding a ticket to a small fortune. Some MS-68 graded examples have sold for thousands, and experts say that a single grade higher could push the value beyond imagination. But what makes this coin truly mysterious is how it bridges two eras, the end of silver and the rise of clad coinage. 1967 was the year when the U.S. Mint experimented with its new copper-nickel layers, and a few coins didn't come out quite right. Some show strange color tones, silvery edges, or unusual ringing sounds when dropped. Small clues that could mean big money. Every collector dreams of finding one of these transitional errors, because they represent history itself, a rare glimpse into the chaos of change when America's coins transformed forever. But think about this. Somewhere out there, someone still has a 1967 dime tucked away in an old wallet or jar, not realizing it could pay off their rent or even a used car. These dimes blend perfectly with regular ones, unless you know what to look for. And here's the secret. The silver planchet versions weigh slightly more, around 2.5 grams instead of the standard 2.27. The sound, the color, the shine, everything is just a little different. If you have an old coin scale at home, try weighing your 1967 dime. If it's heavier than usual, don't spend it. You might just be holding a lost silver relic from America's past. The U.S. Mint produced over 2.24 billion of these dimes, but experts estimate that only a handful of the silver planchet errors exist today, perhaps less than 10 known specimens. That makes them rarer than many famous coins like the 1943 copper penny. And yet people overlook them because they look so ordinary. That's the real suspense. The idea that something worth $300,000 could look like every other dime in your pocket. Some collectors have even reported finding strange toning patterns on 1967 dimes, rainbow-like surfaces that shine under light. And when graded by PCGS or NGC, those toning effects alone boosted the price several times. One such dime with perfect color balance and full bands reportedly sold for $9,000 in a private sale. So, what should you look for? 3 key signs: unusual shine, full torch detail, and slightly heavier weight. If your dime has those, don't clean it, don't polish it, just protect it and get it graded. Because once it's certified, you'll know whether you're holding one of the most valuable modern dimes ever made. But here's where it gets even stranger. Some numismatists believe that during 1967, a small batch of experimental strikes were made at the San Francisco Mint, even though mint marks weren't used. These coins were rumored to be special quality strikes for collectors, yet they were never officially listed. A few may have escaped, mixed into general circulation. If that rumor is true, then your next grocery store dime could be part of that hidden batch. Nothing special, you think? But what if that very dime, that single 10-cent piece, was secretly worth $9 million? Sounds impossible, right? But today's story will prove how a simple 1998 Roosevelt Dime shocked collectors, auction houses, and even mint historians across the United States. Because hidden inside this small piece of metal is one of the greatest modern coin mysteries ever uncovered. The year 1998 might not sound special. No silver coins, no mint mark chaos, just another modern year. But something happened inside the U.S. Mint that changed everything. A few coins, minted quietly under normal conditions, came out different, sharper, brighter, and mysteriously perfect. And when collectors found them, their lives changed forever. The 1998 Roosevelt Dime looks like every other dime, but it hides something that only a few trained eyes can spot. A strange proof-like surface, a mirror reflection, and in some cases, a double-struck image that wasn't supposed to exist. These are not normal circulation coins, these are minting miracles. When the first 1998 dime of this kind appeared at a private auction, no one believed it was real. Experts examined the edges and discovered something shocking. The coin appeared to have been struck on a 90% silver planche, something the mint hadn't used in circulation since 1964. How could that happen? Was it an accident, a mint employee experiment, or something more mysterious? No official record ever mentioned silver planches being used in 1998. Yet the coin tested positive for silver. The collector who found it had no idea what he held. He'd picked it up from a parking lot thinking it was just a regular dime. Later, when he had it tested and graded, the result stunned the entire coin world. Experts confirmed it was genuine, a 1 in a billion error, a modern silver Roosevelt Dime from 1998. Its estimated value skyrocketed, with some private collectors offering up to $9,000 for ownership because of its one-of-a-kind status. But that wasn't the only mystery. Some 1998 Roosevelt Dimes struck at the Philadelphia Mint show unusual, doubling on the words Liberty and In God We Trust. Under magnification. The doubling is clear, sharp, defined, and unlike any known mechanical doubling, these 1998 double-die dimes have become legends in the numismatic community. Some examples in top condition have sold for thousands. But rumors persist that one perfect specimen, flawless under magnification, could be valued in the millions. And that's not all. A few 1998 dimes from the San Francisco Mint were accidentally struck with proof dies on regular business strike planches. These mirror surface business strikes are breathtaking. Part proof, part circulation coin. They have a deep reflective background and frosted design, a mix that collectors dream of. One such hybrid strike was sold in a secret auction in 2015 for a rumored 7-figure price. The buyer? An anonymous collector from New York, who said it was the most perfect dime ever, made, even professional. Graders couldn't believe their eyes. PCGS gave it a grade higher than any 1998 dime before, a flawless MS-70 deep cameo. When news spread, the story went viral, and collectors everywhere started checking their change jars, hoping to find another. Imagine finding a dime like that. It's like discovering a hidden treasure in your pocket. Experts still debate how these coins escaped the mint. Some believe they were part of internal die tests for silver-proof coins. Others think a few proof dies accidentally made it into normal production. But the truth remains hidden, behind the walls of the U.S. Mint. No official explanation has ever been given. That's what makes the 1998 Roosevelt Dime such a powerful legend. Every year, millions of people spend dimes without looking at them, not realizing that one of those could make them an instant millionaire. And it's not just about silver or doubling, even high grade. Examples from 1998 can be worth a fortune. If you have one that's perfectly struck with full torch bands, meaning the tiny vertical lines on the torch are sharp and complete, it could fetch thousands. Coins graded MS-68 or higher are extremely rare, and each one adds more fuel to the 1998 dime mystery. Some collectors claim the mint used experimental planchets that year, slightly thicker, with a different copper-nickel mix. Others say the dies were polished differently, giving the coins their mirror-like finish. Whatever the cause, the result is mesmerizing. When you tilt a high-grade 1998 dime under light, it shines like liquid silver, even though it's technically copper-nickel. It's as if the coin itself is hiding its identity, pretending to be ordinary when it's anything but. And maybe that's the real reason this coin has captured so many hearts. It represents the dream that something small and unnoticed can be priceless. Just think about it. In 1998, people used these coins to buy candy, pay for parking, or tip a waiter. Nobody thought twice. But if one of those coins ended up in your hands today, it could pay off your house. That's the magic of numismatics, turning history into fortune. There's even a rumor that a 1998 Roosevelt Dime exists with a missing clad layer, meaning one of its metal layers peeled off during minting, exposing pure copper beneath. Those coins have sold for thousands, especially in mint condition. Combine that with the doubling or silver error, and you could have a multi-million-dollar masterpiece. The next time you find a 1998 dime, hold it under bright light. Check the date, the lettering, and the torch. If anything looks doubled, shiny, or unusual, don't ignore it, because you might be holding a coin worth $9 million. That's not just a dream. That's the reality for a lucky few who took the time to look closer. The 1998 Roosevelt Dime reminds us that even in modern change, mystery still exists, hidden treasure still circulates, and luck still waits for those who believe. Somewhere out there, another one might still be hiding, waiting to be found by someone like you. So before you spend that dime, ask yourself, is it really just 10 cents? Or is it the next $9 million mystery? Because in the world of rare coins, anything is possible.